okay. I had to make a few assumptions for this webinar on raising prices. So I'm assuming that you make products rather than services, and that you're already selling, you already have set prices. This is not a webinar about how to do your costings and your pricing. Also that your product is of quality, you developed it as well as you can, you're confident that there is a value. The quality is good, as I said, you know that you can raise your, they command higher prices. And then also, this is not about reducing your costs. So I'm not going to talk about reducing your overheads in your business or finalizing your production workflow so that you actually spend less on each product. So this is not about reducing costs. It's really about reviewing your prices and strategy on increasing them. Okay, so very short agenda. We're going to talk about, we're going to explore the benefits of raising your prices, because just to see what it does to your business when you raise your prices, it's good to put that in perspective. Then we're going to talk about why you may need to raise your prices. Then we'll do our homework, and then we look at strategies. Before we go further, for those who haven't met me before, my name is Florence Magee. I'm a specialist in the creative industries. I'm a business specialist. I do work on strategy and on finances to really help makers run profitable businesses. I have an MBA in creative industries management, BA in management, and also qualification in finance. And I was a hand weaver for 5 years. So I've myself have sold products and made them. And as you can hear, I'm not Irish, I'm French, but I've been here and many other places since the late 90s. Okay, so first I want to spend a little time looking at what raising your prices can do for your business. And it's good to take a wider view. We tend to see prices as something that impacts one product, but when you look at the impact over your whole business, it can really be motivating. So small changes can make a big difference, particularly when you look at them over the course of 1 year. So I've given you an example here. Let's say your average price, average price item is 30 euros, and you more or less make 1,000 of these a year. So your turnover is 30,000. We're going to apply a small but noticeable price increase of 15%. So your item is now 34.50 euros. Still more or less the same ballpark, but it is 15% increase on the price. You still make 1,000 items a year. Your annual turnover goes up to 34,500. That's a profit, an extra profit of 4,000 euros 500. So that is profit. That is not sales. So it means that those 4,500 euros get in your pocket straight away. So that's a huge increase of profit for somebody who might be working on their own. Conversely, increasing your prices a little bit would allow you to reach the same turnover with much less work. So again, looking at a yearly view, we take a product that goes from a price of 30 euros to a price of 34.50 euros. That's 50% increase. We're not going to change the turnover, but we're going to look at how many months, sorry, I can see that's in the middle, it takes you to actually reach that target. So instead of producing 1,000 products, you need to produce 869 products. So you have the same turnover in 10.5 months as in 12 months previously. So you save yourself a month and a half where you can do something else, maybe go on holidays or work on new projects. And then finally, that goes back here, a higher price can help you support a value-based strategy. And I'm going to talk about that in later sections. So we'll see that. So why may you need to raise your prices? Big question. Well, first, because if you've been reading the papers or if you've been listening to the radio, you may know that at the moment, everything is going up. We are in an increasing cost environment because of environmental issues, because of raw material shortages worldwide. So I have a quote here saying that Electric Ireland announced that it was increasing its residential electricity prices by 9% and gas prices by 7.8%. That was from a press release from July of this year. We have also the effect of Brexit on businesses. And this quote says that 71% of retailers say Brexit has lifted their cost. That's from the Independent this year. So everything is going up, and you might have seen it in your domestic life, but everything is going up. So for you, what it looks like, it probably means that your overheads are increasing. So how much you pay for your electricity, your Wi-Fi, your insurance, what you use to run the business, staff. If you're using staff at the moment, we know that there's huge shortages of staff and salaries are going up. That's the overheads. Then there's the product cost. So the cost of making each product will be going up because of the energy prices going up, the raw materials prices going up, the packaging, so raw materials as well, but also the shipping of these packages. Maybe you're importing from the UK, you've been hit by customs, the shipping, everything is going up. And then finally, you might have not reviewed your prices in a few years, which means that your actual profits on each sale are down and you're not making enough, at the end of the month or of the year. Okay. Second question. You may need to raise your prices because you're super busy, but you're not really paying yourself properly. And that, without going too deep into it, it is something that's structural in the craft sector, endemic. And basically, we are a sector that runs on low pays, and this is our low pay. And we're doing it to ourselves. So just a little quote from the Craft Council. It says that there's a fourfold increase in the volume of craft objects bought in the past 14 years. So the industry is exploding, but the profits are remaining very, very low. Among master craftspeople, only 16% reported profits from selling in excess of 30,000. So low pay in the sector. Okay, for yourself, what may it look like? It may be that your prices are unsustainable, so you don't get enough profit from each sale to actually survive on properly, pay yourself properly. Or you might have a good markup on each product, but your production capacity is not high enough, you cannot make enough, you cannot produce enough to actually reach a level of income that is sufficient for you. Or you might be working so hard at those two things that your capacity is maxed up and you cannot work properly as a business owner. So your business is little by little losing because you're just only producing and selling. You're not actually developing and innovating and moving forward. Okay. Final reason, why may you need to raise your prices? Because it makes sense strategically. So I have a quote from Mark McGuinness, who's a coach and talks a lot about money and creatives. He says, believe it or not, many people are happier paying more for quality than shopping around for the cheapest option. Who wants to have a knockdown painting on their wall or give their loved one a cut price ring or to do their big party or launch on the cheap? So ask yourself, what does your price say about the product? For yourself, you might know that you're a bit too affordable. You're a bit too easy a buy for the customer. People might have commented on it, or you might see other people charging more. You might also want to make a stand for a certain type of customers and say, this is my value, and going for slightly more upmarket type of product. But also you might have a strategy that involves selling to trade, and you know that you cannot be sustainable selling to trade with your current prices. So to recap on this section, why may you need to raise your prices? One is to reflect actual cost increases that are happening across the board at the moment. Then is to make sure that you are sustainable as a business, that you can continue trading, because you're no good if you actually are unsustainable and have to close shop, and that you continue to grow and offer the best products and services when you can. And then third reason, you might want to increase your prices to implement a new strategy that go hand in hand with other elements of your business. Okay, so now we're going to dig a bit deeper into what we need to look at to, decide whether to raise your prices or not. Okay, so I have little proposition for you, proposal. And it's really to see your price not as something that is fixed and determined, but as a conversation between yourself as a person, between your business, and there is a difference there, and between your customer. And these three identities have to actually agree that the price is good for them. It has to work for these three people. If as a customer, I tell you, I'm going to give you a $5 for that ring, you will probably tell me, no, that's not good enough for me. So your business should not be asking you to make the ring for $5. So we have that conversation there. And I know there's a lot of calculations in it. You have to decide whether some things are profitable enough to bring to market or not. And in creative endeavors and production, not everything is suited to go to the market or to go to any market. Maybe it's something you want to keep for commissions or for special on-demand production rather than going to the shops with it. Okay, so it's a strategic conversation between yourself and your business on which of these products that you can make, you are a skilled maker, you can make many things, which ones are the ones that you're going to bring to market. And going further into that price. So we have, the business, yourself, and the customers that have to agree on the price. But your price also is kind of made of different identities, and I'm going to explain that because that's a bit, all these identities have to align for the mutual benefit of yourself, your business, and your customers to actually really make sense. And I'm going to dig into each of these four prices so that you can understand what I mean. So we have the internal price, we have the profitable price, which is generally the one we start thinking about with our pricing formulas. Then there's the market price, and then we're going to talk about perceived value. Sorry. There you go. So the internal price, as you can see, big scare. The internal price is the price that we have inside of us, that you've decided that €50 for your product is fine, but 100 isn't, or whatever your level of pricing may be. Your internal price is your zone of comfort, and coming out of your zone of comfort, it's something that is frightening. It makes us uncomfortable. It's something that, raises the adrenaline a little bit. There are fears attached to any mention of money, but especially prices, which is asking people to actually give you money for something you've made. There's a lot of fears attached to them. So let's look at those fears. First, we have the fear of basically a virtual business death. You might be afraid that by raising your prices, you might be losing sales, going out of business. So there is, none of these are unreasonable. They are there, but they shouldn't be taking over. And they shouldn't be the ones doing all the talking. So we have this fear of losing sales, going out of business. Then we have a fear of confrontation. And some people are going to confrontations, a lot of people are not. We would be afraid of the backlash from, especially when we know our customers, friends, families saying, what is that? Why are you increasing your prices? This fear of critique. Then there's the fear of actually talking money and digging into money, into looking at your costings, but also having to justify more money, and this fear that somebody might kind of go, it's not worth it. Then we have a fear of swindling people. You know, what if you actually just bump up the price so much that you actually, you know, just asking too much. You know, we don't want, makers are so generous. We don't want to be actually, asking too much from people. And then finally, there is a kind of a more socially focused fear, which is fear of asking for more money than yourself or your network might be willing to spend on a single object. And just to remind you, there are people buying beds in youth hostels at 20 euros a night. There are people buying beds in hotels at 2,000 euros a night. It's still a night somewhere. There is a huge panel of what is possible, but we all have, you know, a comfortable zone. So I'm asking, should you actually move out of your comfortable zone to find the customers that will actually pay you the prices that can support your business? Okay, looking at the second type of price, it's the profitable price, and that's the price that allows you to earn what you want to be earning out of your business at your optimal level of sales and production. So if you are handmaking yourself, or if you're a small business, even if you're outsourcing your production, you are always limited in capacity. You are not a massive multinational who's going to go and actually purchase another plant if they need to increase the business. So having a view on your capacity and how much you need to be making per product to actually pay yourself comfortably. So that depends on your business model, that depends on your production model, and that depends on your sales mix, how much you sell direct, how much you sell with trade or other partners. So we don't have time to really go into the how should you set your prices, but just as a little reminder, you should be covering all of the 4 items I'm going to talk about at your trade price if you're selling to trade. And if you are selling to trade and to retail, retailing yourself, selling direct, your trade price and your retail price should be the same. So your trade price should cover for the cost of materials and packaging, so the cost of the product itself, the cost of the labor attached with the product, if it was somebody else than yourself doing it. So a reasonable per hour price. Then it should carry a share of overheads. So what's your business cost to actually turn the light on in your business. So that's your insurance, that's your marketing, everything. A share for profit, so that you can actually buy new machines next year or replace your tools or something like that. Maybe do a trade show. And a little bit for tax, because you might have to pay tax on your income. Okay, so does your prices account for all of these costs and profits? And does it work? You know, does it work for your product? Does it work for your business model? Are you over the market price? Are you under? How far away are you? And is it a question of pricing? Or is it a question of overall strategy and sales strategy? So as I said, we don't have really enough time to go into the calculations of all of these, but have a look for yourself and maybe dig into it a bit on your own of what it looks like if you multiply that by the amount of products that you sell a year. And just a quick check, if you want to sell to trade, for example, take your retail price, the normal prices, divide that by 2.5, which is the markup that the shop will put on. Do you still pay yourself properly? Do you still make a little profit? Or are you actually not even paying your overheads? If you can't make a profit, it will be difficult to actually sell to trade, and you should think about the validity of it as an option, or limiting at least. Okay, now I want to talk about the market price. So this is coming out of the your business, yourself and your product, and going out into the market. So when customers come to a shop or a show or wherever they come in contact with your product, they are doing so with something in mind already. They come to the buying occasion with a determined budget in mind. Maybe it's a budget of, might just treat myself today, or I'm shopping for my parents' golden anniversary. And all of these have very specific price points. So you should have a look in the shops and do some research on what are the price points that are relevant to your product types and or your industry. If you're in, for example, the wedding industry, you will have different price points that, let's say, the custom jewelry industry, or even like a very specific luxury industry. Prices are so different. Do you know which buying occasions your products cater for? And do you hit those price points? I have just a provocation quote from somebody who wrote a book called The Passion Economy. His name is Adam Davidson. Should you be reverse engineering your pricing equation rather than starting with your cost? Should you start with the prices of these different buying occasions? Let's say if you're doing jewelry for weddings, let's say down to small pieces, big pieces. He says price should drive cost, not the other way around, which is very interesting because we always start with our costs to actually determine our prices. And he continues saying the price you should charge should match the value you provide. Value is a conversation, and we're going to talk about value now. But it is interesting, and know that for yourself in your head, prices should drive cost, not the other way around. What would it mean to you to actually, work backward in the products that you provide? Okay, now we're going to talk about perceived value, and it's some concepts you might have heard about. It is really a perceived value means that your customers might perceive your products, your own products, as having a higher value than your competitors in the market. And we're going to look at how to increase this. Okay, so to go back to the definition, Investopedia, always a good source. Your perceived value is a customer's own perception of a product or service, merit or desirability to them, especially in comparison to a competitor's price. So the perceived value is measured by the price the public is willing to pay for a good or services. So higher value, higher price, essentially. To put it in other ways, from French author Gustave Flaubert, there is no truth, there is only perception. The higher the perception is, the more we're willing to give for it. Now, I'm going to propose a few things because it's not something that maybe you feel comfortable with working on people's perception. Maybe it's So first, perception is not about deceiving people. It's not about smokes and mirror. It's not about putting a nice package on something and then tripling the price. It is very much on working and to understand why a customer actually values your product and actually giving them more of what they value. So it's very personal to the customer, and you need to be able to put yourself in their shoes. So it's both logical and it's both emotional. So you need to work at understanding what your customers value in your product and your brands. And you do that by talking to them, trying to be as close to them as possible and actually see what comes back. And you might have several types of customers, and they might value different things in your products. But also, value is relative to the market. And as I said before, the buying occasion. So the same person, for myself, for example, I would look for different value if I was buying something for a special birthday, or if I was buying something for myself to cheer me up. I would look for different things. I would pay different prices. So how do you increase your perceived value? And there's a whole host of things. I didn't want to go into, the theory too much, but it's best summarized by the 4 P's of marketing: the product, the place, promotion, and the price. But if we pick it out, what it means when you're a maker. First, materials have different perceived values. Like if, as a hand weaver, if I sell something made of cotton, it will fetch a lower price than something made of silk, which is why I decided to go for silk, because the labor is the same, which is the bulk of the price. Material cost is actually, not so important. But if you sell something in silk, you will actually ask for a price that's 3 times more than cotton. So can you actually include higher value materials? And these are quite subjective. Of course, we have the precious metals and stuff like that, but sometimes at the moment, even recycled materials might be a high value material for your customers. So think how you can actually make the materials a bit more interesting or actually higher value for the customer. Then there's the size thing. It's a bit silly, but even for diamonds, bigger is more expensive. So how does your size actually reflect a higher value? Can you offer something bigger that is more expensive? Then, of course, your packaging needs to support your higher value. So packaging that is incommensurable with the level of pricing and of value that you're offering. It's just having this aligned product that actually, is quality, speaks quality, and looks quality. Maybe you're offering customization, on-demand products that will fetch a higher price. That is logical, that if you get something made for you, you will pay a bit more. You can also work on your customer service, and it's something that will be appreciated by the customer. It's that level of service, and particularly if you decide to actually go to the luxury level, you need to be offering excellent customer service, and it might be what the client actually value in your business. Let's say you're a jewelry maker, you pride yourself in how you set your stones, but the client really values the time that you spend designing the ring, let's say, with you. So just knowing what to actually, work on and what to communicate. Then there's the whole brand presentation. There's what your website looks like, the fonts, what that says. Is this updated? The photographs, of course, are massively important. Then, of course, if you are have any awards, certifications, any labels, are always good to just reassure the customer there. And then finally, your price. Your price is something that says something about the value of your product. And when we don't know how to compare things, well, we take the price at face value. That something that's more expensive is more valuable. Okay, then you can appeal to the emotional side. So, of course, we will expect different prices depending on where we shop. If we buy something in the farmer's market, we will expect something different from, let's say, a luxury boutique. So where do you sell and how you can improve your sales partners or sales environments so that you actually go up in terms of perceived value. You can also start working on different purchasing occasions so that you go for these high price points, those special birthdays, special anniversaries, away from just buying something, just in the context of a trip to the shops, to going up for, I'm going to treat myself, and I have a budget for that. You might want to actually look for endorsements from professionals and testimonials from clients to actually, work with that reassurance of the customer. Of course, how you present yourself will be important in actually propping up all this perceived value, the visibility of your brand brand, whether you come up in the press or on social media. Maybe you work with other people. I don't want to call them influencers, but maybe you actually show that you are part of a larger network. You have a brand story that is attractive to the customer, and you put your brand values forward so that people can have a connection with your company to have a higher perceived value. They buy it because it means something to them that is more than just, oh, it's a bigger something. So it's just all these elements you can work on, and that's, it's something that's rarely done. You always keep working on those. Okay, now I'm gonna finish off with the strategies for increasing your price. And everybody is different. So I just went and I selected kind of 4 tactics from the bold to the subtle, and see what, have a think. What does it feel right for you? Is it something you'd never do, or is it something you could consider doing for your business? First method is the jump in the pond method. Just do it. Now, this method is good if you actually have no intention of changing your products. You're already selling, you have a good customer base, your products are not going to change, but you need to increase your prices for the reasons we talked about earlier. So you're just going to decide to do it. You're going to pick a date in the diary where you're going to update all your prices at a certain time of the year. You need to choose your time. I would stay away from the end of the year at competitive times like Christmas, because we don't want to actually, put any barriers in the decision process that the customer might make. But so maybe, looking at Q1, Q2 of the year, and just making a concerted effort that this is the time that price changes. If you work with shops already, you want to respect them. So you want to actually give them advance notice that this is happening. It's not a conversation of whether this is happening or not. It's just letting them know that from February, from March, you're actually going to increase your prices. This is the new price list. And then give them the chance to actually purchase at, the last orders at the old price before you increase your prices. Likewise, with your loyal customers, you might have a well-developed newsletter. You might want to actually give people the heads up that you're going to increase your prices as per this date. Therefore, they can actually place their orders now. Or if you don't want to wait, because you might have a lot of new customers coming in, that people just purchase regularly, new customers, you might want to actually have increase the price on your platforms and give a sales price, have a sale on for a month or 2 to actually ease the prices in. Okay? Or you might use coupons for people on your newsletter. Okay, second method, a bit softer. We're going to the market. It's the collaborative method. So it's great if you're introducing new products, new features, new packaging. We're going to go out and actually ask the customers. So you can do that on your social media, on your Facebook. You can do that face-to-face when you're doing fairs. You can just ask feedback on the new product or new feature. And you can see what people prefer. And if you want to include the price in that, I think that's fine. That's my own opinion. But if you say, would you buy this thing in blue for 30 euros or this thing in red for 50 euros, they need to be different. They can't be the same product with different prices. But you might find that actually people would like the bejeweled one, at a higher price point. So it allows you to actually expand what you think people might want to purchase without actually doing the stock. So as I said, you might offer a choice and ask for people to actually feedback on whether they actually are interested in new features, new materials or new looks. Obviously, with a view to actually increase the value of it. Or you can have a test launch if you're yourself at a fair, now that's actually back running maybe for the Christmas season, or working with your trade partners, bringing them and do like a little soft launch or test in shop to see if people go for the higher value, the higher price product. Okay, another method, and that's third out of our 4 methods, is the anchoring method. So anchoring is a concept that we actually all are familiar with, but maybe not in a theoretical sense. So I'm going to read that quote. The anchoring effect is a cognitive bias, whereby an individual's decisions are influenced by a particular reference point of anchor. Once the value of the anchor is set, subsequent arguments estimate made by an individual may change from what they would have otherwise been without the anchor. Basically, when you see a more expensive price, you actually reset to a higher figure what you think of the all other prices. So if you are trying to move your whole range to a higher price points or lift everything up, it would be good to offer a product at a higher price point than what you actually normally sell. This is not to actually sell it, which is funny. It is to frame. So the anchor allows you to actually say, I make something for 500 euros, but you can actually buy the one for 150. If the product for 150 was the top purchasing product, the top price product, people might have gone for the 100 euro one. But if there's something that is much more than that, they might think this is a product that is of a higher value and go for the middle one. That's the Goldilocks effect. Basically, people have a tendency to go for the middle range. So not the entry point, not the splurging one, but the middle one. So working on that perception within your own price range and actually offering higher price products. Again, you might sell them or you might just, bring the perception of your price range slightly up. And then also making sure that your price range is deep enough for progression so that you have a starter product, a middle size product that hopefully is your bestseller, and then an aspirational product. So when people have purchased your bestseller and they still are a fan of yours and they would like to treat themselves and they've already bought for their friends, they can actually upgrade to that higher level purchase. And so that's anchoring. And we actually see it often, although you can have the free or entry service, and you can have the all bells and whistles service, and most people go for the middle one. So have a think of what it might look like for your own business. And then the final method, the reframing. And basically it's looking at your overall, your price, your promotion, your place, your product. What do they say about your business, your product, your strategy? So we talked about the value of the purchasing context, so do have a think of where you should stop selling. If you are selling in places that actually say low price points, and maybe just slowly move towards selling environments that are more selective, okay? Second, edit your product range. You can retire products if they don't work for you. If these products that are not profitable for you are your best sellers, then I would argue that you need to create profitable versions of these by including higher value materials, higher value size, just finding out what people like in those bestsellers, and then just making a higher price point version at a higher price point so that you can actually benefit from it. And then if that is still not going to work, you might want to work toward a higher value offer, which is more based on customized products, on-demand commissions, or art products. So more unique objects so that you are not, chasing productions and volumes and trade prices. So it is a strategy, really. So we go from pricing to the overall strategy of your business so that it aligns to give you your profit, to be able to continue doing what you want to be doing. Okay, final questions. I'm actually not going to answer those because they can be so varied, but you might also be wondering, how often should I raise my prices? Well, it depends. If you are in an environment that changes prices very frequently, every year, maybe every 2 years, what time of the year should I raise my prices? As I said, avoid Christmas, maybe avoid summer as well. Well, if I lose customers, well, you probably will, but they should be the wrong type of customers. And what if the new price doesn't work out, which is probably a worry. So again, it's looking at the overall strategy of the business and understanding, whether you should change more than your prices. Okay, so just a quick recap. Do we have 2 minutes?
We do.
Okay, so you might need to raise your prices to reflect actual cost increases, to ensure your sustainability as a business, or to implement a new strategy. Okay, we're clear on this? You might be resisting to increase your prices because of internal fears. And it's absolutely valid, but you need to know about it and know that you're in business, so you need to move forward and move past it. Your prices should be profitable for your business, consistent with the market, and reinforce your product perceived value. Price is part of the perceived value. The perceived value can be influenced by a number of logical and emotional factors, and you can be working on all of these to actually increase the perceived value of your product. You might increase your prices by reframing your products, providing a higher value anchor product, or just going ahead and increasing your prices. When you do so, timing and consistency is important so that you actually go all in, and raising those prices, they will have an impact on how customers view your product and on their decision to purchase. And that's what we want. We want a bit of change. Okay, and final thought, if you talk the talk, you must walk the walk. You cannot just double your prices and leave it at that. And I know that some advice out there, you must make sure that you support those higher prices with high quality products that don't break, really good customer service, really good packaging, very good brand presentation, because it is your reputation at stake. You can have a customer once. If the customer is not happy with the product and has paid more than what they thought the prices was worth, he will not return. He or she will not return and will talk. So you must make sure that you actually support that price increase. Okay, I hope I answered some questions about raising prices and gave a little bit of a view of what is required to do before raising the prices in terms of homework and reflection, and then strategies of how these prices can be changed.
Florence, I hope I'm not bringing biases, but I found that absolutely superb. I thought it was really clear and thoughtful, and gave great insights into how one should approach raising prices. I'm going to ask you a quick one. You had a final question. What if it doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out?
I think understanding why is very important. So is it that the product or the market has a very definite price for that product and is very price sensitive? Let's say that you sell greeting cards. Greeting cards are very price sensitive. You know, you're not going to sell greeting cards for more than, let's say, 4 to 5 euros. You know, if your calculations and costs, then you realize, oh, I'm going to, sell them at 6 euros. You've moved past that price point. So the question is then, is it the right product? And should you be making prints for the wall where you have the same artwork, but you actually increase the size, you know? So it is really digging, and of course it's going to be hurtful, but it's really digging into why people don't actually purchase at that price. Like I made, just as a little anecdote, I don't know if you remember the Style in the City fair that happened like a long time ago.
Yes.
And it was, yeah, anyway, it was a fashion focused fair. So as a hand weaver, I did this because I wanted to position my scarves on like a high fashion level, because they are selling at quite high prices. Very interestingly, nobody was interested in the fashion world because they were looking for brands. Now, it is 15 years ago, so things have changed now. But there was, whether it was high or low, there was no interest in that market because that's not what they're looking at. So it was the wrong, not only the wrong, it wasn't the wrong positioning, it was the wrong market. So there is so many different variables. And that's why just talking as much as possible, because it's very hard when somebody actually doesn't buy. How do you talk to them if they're not there? Understanding is, have you gone beyond a certain threshold, or is it that the rest doesn't support, you know, it doesn't, do you not look expensive enough to support those, or is it the wrong product? There's not one, there's not one solution. You might want to increase the prices of one product first.
Yes, yes. Do you see this question from Mary there? How long do you wait to decide it's not working if you haven't a large turnover anyway? And she'd like to know if there's mentoring available, and we can arrange that. But would you like to try deciphering that, breaking it down, that question? How long do you wait to decide, do you think, or is there any ideal time?
I don't know, because indeed it depends on the churn of clients that you have. If you have a product that's very seasonal, or that's very attached to, let's say, being a Christmas present, then you need at least a year, because you need to have that season or a wedding season or whatever to tell you that no, it's not working. So for that, it's at least a year. But if you're doing something, let's say you're doing custom jewelry, you know, costume jewelry, sorry, not customs. And you can see that after a few months, it's just not working. Then you need to move a lot faster, you know, and maybe a couple of quarters is enough, you know, and you're talking 3 to 6 months, then you can see it's just not quite right. And the demand has dropped from something that was working really well before.
Okay. Is it a very conservative approach? Because when I'm working with makers, I would usually take the approach that maybe one product range.
In terms of what to raise?
Yes.
Or?
Yes. I mean, if we've analyzed it, and as you say, you know, that excellent example at the beginning where you gave the 15%, it means such a huge difference to the bottom line of a maker. Yeah. And I would regularly in the past have been working with makers, and they're not making the adequate profit that they should be, and that's really unfair. So looking at the scenario, what we did was worked on one range to start off with, and gave it its true price in the market, and tested it in that way, because I thought if they were to raise all three at once, it could really lead to difficulties for them. And in one instance it worked, because they raised one, and then about 6 or 7 weeks later, that was working. They were able to implement that with range 2. Range 3, they didn't really like themselves, and find that the customer didn't, even though it was then the cheapest, the customers weren't really responding that well to it either. So eventually range 3 was phased out and morphed into a range 4. But it was just a method that seemed to have worked.
Great. No, that sounds great. I must say that's something I didn't talk about, is whether to change everything or phasing. in terms of the price, the ranges of product, you know. I guess my question would be, how do you make sure that the price range within your business remain in comparison to each other, you know, so that you have the two very similar products, then you only raise the price of one. You know, will there be an understanding that there's a jarring element there or not? If it's different enough that, of course, you know, those earrings should be 20 rather than 15, or should be 100 rather than 60, or whatever. Yeah. No, I must say it's not something I touched on, and that sounds like a really good, you know, strategy.
Well, maybe we could look. I mean, it was apart from costing and pricing, it was mathematical to a certain degree, and then it became perceived value.
Yeah.
You know, it really did. But I think that's so useful. It's a really useful thing to be concentrating on, because that 4,500 is so important.
It's amazing. And
it really is.
And as I said, like, it's 4,500, it's not sales. So you're not going to take out your cost out of it. It's 4,500 in your pocket.
Yes.
Which is huge. So you're not increasing your turnover. Again, it's different between turnover and profit. You're not increasing your turnovers by making new sales, therefore increasing your cost, because every time you sell something, you spend more. So you are increasing the profit that goes in your pocket, but that pays you, you know. Exactly. And if you're, you know, if you're not paying yourself enough, it will make a huge difference. If you're happy with your level of pay, it will actually mean that you can actually get to the next level and invest into either machinery or marketing for yourself.
Absolutely, Florence. That's absolutely terrific. And I definitely think we should develop a workshop around this area. If you'd be keen, maybe in the new year, we'll look at that. We have a lovely comment from Dan. I really like Dan, is always on the ball with his comments. So Florence, congratulations on presenting on this critical topic in a manner that is easily digestible by makers. Your non-academic approach is refreshing. I am sure that this audience appreciates your history as a maker. You clearly understand makers' issues and our impediments to keeping our businesses both profitable and sustainable. Well said, Dan. That's excellent.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. Thank you.
Isn't that really, really lovely and well deserved?
Thank you so much. Thank you. And it is something, because I have the books as well, but it's something I always try to do, is to actually make it relevant for makers, because I've been in those training sessions when somebody is just giving you the theory, which, you know, what you need is actually, you know,
practice
a bit more than this, the analysis. And,
exactly.
And unfortunately, we are not, as an industry, we don't have a lot of analysis. You know, if we were in much more moneyed industries, we'd have commentators and journalists giving us, you know, what the next, you know, superstar is doing. But we have to do the analysis for ourselves, unfortunately. So I'm glad that I could help a little bit on that.
That is absolutely superb. So what we will do is develop a workshop from it. And listen, Florence, I'd really like to thank you on behalf of the audience today, and on behalf of myself and the Design Crafts Council. It was excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank you.